Well, again, back to things that the public doesn't understand about policing. Patrol, and I'm going to talk to you like I'm talking to somebody that doesn't know anything, again, for our listeners, patrol are the guys that are answering the radio. They are trained to the radio,
Yeah.
okay? So if a precinct, let's say a fairly busy precinct in the Bronx, okay, may only be turning out 5 cars, 6 cars that night. And each car is going to pick up, anywhere from, the high teens to almost 30 jobs a night. Try to fit that into 8 hours,
Yeah.
right? You're hopping, you're running, man. I'm talking about a busy night. Job, 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 job.
Move. Yeah.
If you grab somebody for 2 decks of heroin on the corner and you go out of service,
Yes.
those 4 other cars have to pick up your 20 jobs.
Exactly.
Hey, how you doing? What you're about to listen to is a interview I recently had with my good friend Brian Robertson. 31 years he did with the Kingston, New York Police Department. Mostly as an undercover, detective, sergeant, lieutenant, he did everything. Hostage negotiation, buy and bust operations, homicides, you name it, Brian did it. He retired from KPD, but currently works for the Ulster County DA's office as an investigator there. Anyway, that's about it. That's my introduction. I hope you like it. Take a listen. He's a really cool guy. Hey, how you doing, Brian? Good to see you, my friend.
Okay, I'm good, man. I'm good. It's good to see you
Good, good.
as usual.
I'm glad we could get together and sit today. My listeners already know from our intro. I've known you for Jesus, 23 years, something in that neighborhood now.
Yeah.
And you have a very interesting story. So,
Thank you.
yeah, you do.
No,
You do.
thank you. Yeah. I appreciate you coming forward and asking me to do this. This is it's interesting for
Well, I
me.
think it's going to be cool. I
Yeah.
think it's going to be cool. I really
Very
do.
much. Very much.
And without any more further nonsense, go ahead. Tell us how you got started, because I think the way you got started is in the police department. But let's back it up a little bit more. Tell us how you grew up a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was I was born in New York and lived in Queens for a few years. My parents split. My mother moved up here, so we wound up here, and it was an interesting life because we got to kind of live upstate and have that.
So up here is in the Hudson Valley.
Correct. I'm sorry. Yeah,
Kingston
upstate.
area.
Just outside. A little bit out of Kingston. We were kind of up in the sticks a little bit compared to being on 12th Street down in Queens. You know what I mean? So it was a different world. So the way it worked for us, for me and my sister, was we were up here, and this is where we went to school. But all vacations and the way that they worked out the divorce stuff, I was to be, all summers were in New York. All summers were back in Queens. So that was the way it worked. It was great. I had a lot of friends in Queens. I got my friends to hang out with and play with in the street, in the city. And upstate here, it was nice because I had a lot of friends up here as well, where you get to go do country stuff. So it's kind of nice to have a little of both.
The best of both worlds.
Yeah, the best and worst of both worlds. So
Yeah, exactly.
it was a good thing. My old man was a cop at that time, I think, I don't remember what precinct he was. He got big in the Union, but I know he was in the 7-9 for a bunch of years. And ultimately, a couple different precincts, maybe the 105. I don't remember. But he was very busy, so he was always working, doing night tours and stuff. He would be you really didn't get to see him as much, even though I was down there. I got kind of bounced around with my grandparents lived in Flushing, so we would go there. Sometimes we'd stay there for a week or two, just if he was busy or whatever. So we had like a weird shuffle. So it was kind of nice. We had a couple neighborhoods to play in.
Unfortunately, that's kind of the whole thing for most cop kids. The hours are so upside down.
Yeah.
People don't realize that, we as police officers have no choice over the hours we're going to work half the time.
Exactly.
So days, nights, days, like myself, when I was in narcotics, I went to midnights on purpose, which was a fairly undesirable tour.
Yeah, sure.
It was the only way I could spend time with my kids.
Yeah.
Because I'd be home all.
Exactly.
But really, we're not talking about me. We're talking about you. No, so go ahead.
It's very similar, and I get it. He was in that part of his career where he was still actively on patrol and doing all of that stuff before he got real heavy in the Union and got kind of pulled into that.
So
But
he was in the PBA or the DEA?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, no, he actually he was number two. He was Phil Caruso's number two
Oh,
back in the
interesting.
day. Yeah, he was
And
like I think
for
number
listeners who don't know, the PBA is the police, that's the Police Benevolent Association.
right.
The DEA is the
Correctors
Detective
Endowment. Yeah,
Association, not the Drug Enforcement Agency.
yeah,
Just so listeners understand what we're talking
yeah,
about.
that's true. Yeah, DEA would throw most people. No, I was quite familiar with those terms just because actually I got to hang out with some of those guys in some of those PBA meetings and get-togethers and stuff like that. So I got to
Well, I was the
you get to learn the language pretty early. So it was kind of strange because my mother's very to the left and everybody upstate. There was a lot of transplants from that neighborhood that moved up there. My uncle, other guys,
yes.
other people from the neighborhood in Queens, all kind of migrated upstate to the same little area. So we had some of the same people, but they were very on the liberal side of things. And then obviously I go down to my dad, more not so much on the liberal side of things. So growing up, kind of had both sides of things, not really understanding. As I got older, you pick your own path. I'm like, I don't know if they're necessarily the way that I would go per se, but there was a lot of political stuff always going back and forth. And paying attention to that as a kid, you don't really know what's going on until you get a little older. You go, okay, I know which way I'm going. So it was interesting. It was an interesting start that way.
So what sucked you? Because when I say suck you too, one of the things that's interesting, you didn't join the police department
Right.
the way a regular guy joins the police department.
Right. No. Yeah, it was an interesting start for that as well. So I was in construction for a lot of years. That's where I met some friends of mine that I got into that were heavy in the motorcycle world and learned a bit about that life. Didn't participate in it per se, but learned a lot from I became very, very good friends with my ex-wife's brother. So it was my brother-in-law, and we were great friends beforehand. I knew him before I even knew her, and just learned about that whole type of world. And and let's say those guys are a whole different mentality.
And we're talking motorcycle club.
Yeah, so they were club guys and stuff. They weren't like super crazy with it, but they were they were club and just all good, hardworking guys. Like I said, we worked together for my uncle in construction. I did probably 10 years in construction. I'm not like one of those guys that went right out of high school and went right to the police department. You know what I mean?
Well, that was much like myself. I didn't join the police department until I was 28.
Really?
So
Yeah.
I
Okay,
missed.
so I was actually you're a little older. I went 25, I think it was when I went. 25 is when I went in. We moved around too. The other part of it was when we were younger. We moved to out by Seattle for a couple of years, and when we came back, before I went to the police department, I was doing construction. I took it upon myself to, with a couple of friends, we all rented a place down in Key West and lived down there for a little while. So
Yeah, you get around. Interesting.
yeah, I spent a little gypsy time before I decided to settle in for a career.
Yeah.
That was kind of good. And it was nice. I said, okay, did 3 corners of the country. I'm good. And I took the test and for Kingston PD. I really wasn't looking to go anywhere else. I didn't want to work in any other agency but a city PD. And I didn't want to go back to New York City at all. I didn't want to, most of my life was up here. So I said, this will be pretty good. Kingston's what it is. I knew the city, obviously we lived up here. It was pretty crime ridden, and you're talking about the 90s, when crack was out of control.
Sure.
So I go to the academy. No, I'm sorry. I'm doing this backwards. I signed up. I was interviewed and went home. So I'll wait to hear, I guess, right? About 3 or 4 days later, I get a call from the chief of police and he says to me, listen, we like you. We want to take you, but can't tell anybody because you're going straight undercover and don't tell a fucking soul. For really no other way to put it. Yeah, he was a hard charger and he was very heavy into he was very big into narcotics and he believed that was a big part of the job, which I do too now, as I learned over the years.
I know we've talked in the past, and both of us, for the majority of our policing careers, were spent in narcotics or doing narcotics work.
Right.
And I think we're both in agreement that narcotics is almost the foundation in America, anyway, in modern times, is the foundation of crime.
Sure.
Everything kind of spawns from that. If you have a drug problem, you're going to have every other problem that comes along with it.
Right.
And so yeah, to agree with your old chief there,
yeah.
Narcotics is such, and when they cut back on it, it kills me. It absolutely kills me. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, and you're 100% right, but that's why you and I sat late nights and talked about this before, right? In our time, like hanging out, and because we're like minded that way. It's the base of it. It's also the bastard child, right? And it's also the best tool to get into anything else, even if it's a white collar crime. Somewhere in there, there's a guy hooked on something that can get you into that guy to do the white collar part or whatever. As weird as that sounds, that happens, and
Well,
the other part of it is Narcos served me well.
It's an excellent tool.
Yes,
used to further other investigations.
It's the best tool, right? You're right, because you get to know
exactly.
Because there, for lack of a better way of putting it, that's the best way to get back in to find out what was really going on, right? Like we can have a shots fired and have everybody go out and pull the cameras, and we see a blurry this guy go this way and a muzzle flash, and we this and that, and boy, that long skinny guy like that looks like that guy Slim, or whatever. I'm not really sure. Usually by the next day, after doing narco for a lot of years, getting into squad work even, it served me well because those guys still called me. My informants would still call me, and I still took care of them. Like, hey, what's going on with you? Like, you keep that relationship, even if I'm not doing narco at the time. And I did narco for most of my career, but for the parts that I wasn't doing narco, it helped me capture fugitives. It helped me move ahead on a serial burn thing, anything like that. Anything like that, always roll back to narco. The burgs that we had, mostly in Kingston, especially back in the 90s, when the Bloods were heavy, we had 2 sets from the Bronx come up here and set up shop. And some of those guys are still here, just recently hearing their names again. They didn't go away. Having that kind of, most of the burglaries were home invasions. You know what I mean? Oh, yeah, they came in and they stole my money. Okay, your money meaning half a key of coke, which is going to be money, or your money. You know what I mean? So they still want justice. They just can't tell you what actually got stolen, right? So we know what time it is with that. And usually a lot of times there's a CI involved that maybe wasn't there, but whoever did it came back and told them all about it. So at least gives it, okay, maybe I can't use him as a witness. Maybe I don't want to use him as a witness. He's a good CI. But I do have, it cuts down that time of like, we got to grind it out like a squad guy. We got to go and interview we got to do all the canvas, which we always have to do anyway. But all of that stuff, we can save a lot of time if we know Johnny Jones was the one that went into the house. You know what I mean? Absolutely. And now we can work back to forward instead of forward to back, or forward to back instead of back to forward.
So I get the story right. You didn't even attend the academy. You actually joined the police department prior to going to the academy.
Correct. Yeah. Sorry. Roll back a little bit. I know I kind of segued into something else, but yeah. So I went under. I couldn't tell anybody. There were people close enough around me that were removed from me, family that had drug problems, and it was obviously we didn't want to have anything to do with telling anybody and having that get out into the world. So, my parents knew, and just very few people knew. Only tight family knew what I was doing, and everybody else didn't know. Obviously, the biker people I told you about, they didn't know at all.
Not only about that, they may come up anytime. You never know.
Right. So, like, I wanted, so I kept it quiet all the way through. It was kind of a weird place to be because it was. I think I was under for that first one, under for about a year and a half, maybe a little more. Only 2 years maybe. Because I skipped one academy. And then eventually when we cleaned up the case, we did a sweep. We took all the bodies, all the people I bought, and all the cases we made, and we swept up pretty big.
So tell us, to be 25 years old, 26 years old in that neighborhood, right? Yep. Young guy, yep. You have family who are police officers, so you have an idea of what police work is. Yep. But here you are, no academy, and bang, you're thrown in as an undercover. Tell us about your first case. What was it like to step in raw like that? Never a day on patrol, never a day in uniform. It had to be, I don't know, like something out of the movies.
Yeah, it was. So it was definitely, you're alone, like you got handlers, and I had good handlers. People telling me, hey, this, they would not put me in places where they felt something was messed up. You know what I mean? They were pretty good. Let me check on it first. They did a homework, which I appreciate.
Well, that was, as an investigator, paramount to make sure our people are safe, obviously.
Absolutely, right. But there's always the risk. You never know. Yeah, the house, everything's fine over there. And the next thing you know, you could walk in right when the home invasion happens. You never know.
Yeah.
Right.
No, you
So
never know.
it's a sketchy game, and then sometimes you just got sent out cold. Go out and see what you can find, and street buys were super common back then. Like it's a little bit different now. I think everybody kind of works electronically a little bit about setting up where to
Mhm.
meet and stuff like that.
Well,
But
that's all after my time. So you were again, just to back it up, were you thrown directly into a case, or did you start off doing buy and bust operations?
no buy and bust because we stacked everything. They didn't want to expose me.
They want you to still, for lack of a better word, a virgin.
Right? Yeah,
They
yeah.
want to keep you fresh,
Oh
right?
yeah, yeah. The first case they sent me to a housing complex in Kingston, and my handlers were good guys. It was entrenched with bloods, entrenched. It was saturated. There were
So how
four holes.
you're
What's that?
talking housing project,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
exactly.
Right, public.
Kingston's version of projects, which were back then it was pretty salty, and it was overrun with bloods, and there were shots fired up there every other night. It was strange. Once I got buying up there, once I got in, they got used to me, so they were easy. I wound up kind of getting pretty much everybody that we needed to get. But the first thing he says, look up there, you're going to see there's a green box up there. There's an electric box right outside the front of the place. That's where they all hang out and deal. Go up and see what you can come up with. I'm like, all right. So I they're sitting across from me. I grab my stuff. I'm wired up. I run up the stairs to go up there, and they scattered at first. They didn't know what the hell it was. Some guy just running up here willy nilly like that. And then they all came back out, and I said, hey, I did my talk. Let me get 3. Let me get 5. Whatever. Just starting low, and no problem. And then when they saw that I kept coming back and I was good money, I worked my way into the tiers of the place, and I got pretty familiar with it. They got used to me being in the tiers up there. So
Second you gain their trust, they let their guard down.
exactly, yeah, they realized they're not getting, and especially because it was a long term case. They got used to like, well, after 3 or 4 or 5, they were basically like, yeah, he can't be a cop. You know what I mean? I think that's kind of how they were rolling with it, and it was good. But like I said, it was different. I would come back after a couple of days. I'm like, hey, those are new bullet holes. I'm like standing right next to him dealing. I'm like, that's kind of close to where I stand now. So it was a little Wild West up there for a while, and actually, I was proud of getting that done. I just did the grunt work. I just did the buys. The guys that they made the case and did the takedown on the end of that did a great job. That's where the brain power came in.
It is a team effort. People don't realize that either.
It
You
is,
know,
yeah.
you go out, like for us, it was always 6 guys plus 1 or 2, 3 undercovers, depending on what you were doing for
Right.
those buffs. And sometimes a case could grow into numerous people, even though it's one detective's name on that case.
Right.
You got to credit it to 6 to 12 guys.
Absolutely.
Roll the game.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. And especially without like decent backup and stuff
Mhm.
like that, which, that happens occasionally too. And that's horrible. You know what I mean? You need to have enough people there. You really do have to, you do need enough people. And people didn't know that game, especially.
So
Not
again,
everybody, I think, was wired for that.
give us a little drama, And
Yeah.
again, not so much for me, but for our listeners and people watching on YouTube here, what was it like? First time you're thrown out there. I mean, can you remember? You have to be able to remember,
Oh,
right? The
yeah.
first you actually entered that building all
Yeah.
by yourself. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
were you armed? Were you armed? Did you go without a gun?
I went, yeah, I
First
was
time wearing
armed.
a gun?
I had at that point, I think maybe, yeah, I was armed. I had a 38 that I got from my dad. I think it was one I got from my dad. I had a permit already, and that was easy enough. Plus, now I'm sworn, so it didn't matter. They give you a Glock. I'm not carrying a Glock up in that place. You can't hide it. And I'm not a big guy. I can't hide that thing. Yeah, I think I just had a small 38. What I did with that gun, I carried that gun for UC work most of the time, and it was a nice gun. My dad always liked nice guns. It was a nice gun, but I took the handle and put a bunch of duct tape on it, and I knocked it around a bit.
A little bit.
Yeah, I still carry it.
Yeah.
I carry it now. When I go to work, I don't carry a big gun. I don't
But neither
expose a
do I,
gun.
actually. I carry a 5-shot Centennial. That was
My get out of the hallway gun.
I always liked it. So.
I'm hoping somebody's going to get up there and find me by the time I'm done with 5. That's kind of what I'm hoping for. So that was always my plan. And to be honest with you, I still carry that gun to this day. I carry that, when I work up at the DA's office now, so I still carry that gun.
That's right. So you just mentioned you work at the DA's office now. what did you do? You did 20, 30 years on the job?
I did 31.
31 years on the job.
31.
31 years. All right. And
Right.
predominantly in narcotics, correct?
Yeah, mostly narcotics. And I moved up. I had a pretty good career. I did that. I did a lot of UC work. And then I went to the academy a year late. I
Mhm.
think it was by the time the academy rolled around, it was like over 2 years in. And I went in to the academy. I had to go through the academy and go through the whole system. I'll run it back real quick. Funny part about when I got hired, I went in for the interview. I
Mhm.
cut off probably about, I don't know, a foot and a half, 2 feet of hair and a giant ass beard and went for the interview. And the chief calls me up and goes, "Yeah, you're going to be an undercover, dirty up a little bit." Wish you would have told me. I just cut up 2 feet of hair, but I grew it back because I was under for again. So it's kind of, but, so then I go to the academy, cut all the hair off and go back to the academy and do my thing. And I went to patrol for a little while. During patrol, they would, for lack of a better word, they would slut me out. If they needed a UC, they're like, "Hey, we did like swap a cop programs
Yes.
because we're not New York City. We don't have a bank of undercovers that can go from borough to borough and new people under and stuff like that." It was,
Well, this is something that I actually found very interesting about your story is how many different towns did you end up doing undercover work for?
oh,
You bounced
Jesus.
all over the place. Not just
Multiple
multiple
towns,
towns or cities, but multiple counties as
multiple
well.
towns and cities. Yeah. So the swap thing, we started with that. I would jump out and go do stuff for some people random if they needed a UC.
Right.
Those were small cases, or like quick, "Hey, we got to buy and bust this guy. Can you guys send a guy over?" "Yeah, I know a guy," me. And then they would throw me over to whoever, which is great. I got to meet a lot of contacts and
Yeah.
early on, which is huge up in the Kingston area.
Oh, absolutely. Because if you know you're looking for somebody in Kingston, but he lives in Poughkeepsie,
Right.
you know, or he's up in Hudson
Yes.
or Albany
Yeah.
or Middletown, wherever it is, people don't know these places. Many of our
Right.
listeners are from
Ex-
all over the world.
Exactly.
But the thing is, the beauty of it is, one, you're going to be unknown in
Right.
these locations,
Right.
but it's enhance everybody else's investigations
Right. And
because
we
the
all
bad guys don't care. They're not chained to a city like a cop is. They're all over the place.
and narc guys, that's how we work, especially task force guys. And a lot of times it was those guys. And all the places you just named, you see them.
Right.
So all like Hudson, Middletown. I've done all those towns and cities over the years. So I got to know investigators and cops up there, like-minded people in the same business. And it was funny because I look at my phone now, and my phone over the years just I keep all that stuff, and I keep it on that. It's an iPhone. When you get a new one or you move here, you just whatever. I have. I can't. I stopped one day and I went, "Man, I pretty much." I'm like, "Hey," somebody says, "I need to get a hold of so and so." I said, "Man, I remember that guy's name." Look at my phone, and I
Yeah.
find him. Like, oh my God, from 8 years ago. I got a call from one of my friends from the Marshals Task Force just last night. I haven't talked to him in 4 years. He just called me up. He's like, "Hey, I hadn't talked to you." There's all these contacts that are great contacts because it's like-minded stuff for me. Even now up there in the DA's office, it's like
Oh,
somebody says,
sure.
"Oh, I need somebody that knows so and so and so and so." I said, "Wait, I know a guy. I don't know. I might have his number, and I'm surprised I even have it, but because the numbers stay with you forever, and to me, that's a treasure. Like that's just nice to have, to be able to one call them to help them.
No,
The
the
whole spread.
contacts they're priceless, absolutely
Yeah,
priceless.
yeah,
And I had that myself from my very first CI that I ever had as a young SNU guy. And having a CI, a truly signed CI in SNU, was very unusual. So it was a good catch for me.
right,
I kept him for years because we had a relationship. He trusted me. He knew
right.
me. If he knew something, he would call me. It was tough to get a hold of him. We didn't have cell phones back then, so it was hard to get a hold of him.
Yeah,
But you could go down and, you talk to Dave, the hot dog guy on Fordham Road. He'd get
right,
the out, to
right. Yeah,
email my CI and
yeah,
he would call me, so there
right.
was always a way to get it done.
Yeah,
Again, pre cell phones was a whole different world, you know?
right. Yeah,
So, but
yeah. You're right.
here's a question for you. So now you're working for the DA's office as an investigator, correct?
Right, right.
Are you now a detective again, or is it What is the title there?
So I'm an investigator. Basically, I'm in discovery. If they need us for something else, we'll go do it. So it's great. And this is the funny part of it. Right now, I call it KPD West because since I went up there, about 2 years ago, one of my detectives from my detective unit is now my boss. He came up as the senior investigator up there, perfect fit for it. And one of my other detectives that was in the squad with me as well. When I left KPD, I was the detective lieutenant, so I ran the squad. So those were all people. So all three of us, all three KPD people, are now working in this unit, and it's great because we're all like-minded anyway. And half of the cases, I'm still coming through cases that are coming in now that I worked on. That some of them that I was involved in, oversaw, whatever.
Well,
and same with my boss, and same with the other detective. So now all three of us are investigators up there, and I'm like, hey, wait a minute, you worked on that case, right? Or it's like, well, wait a minute, I worked on that case. Well, we all worked on that case because there are homicides that are coming up now. You know how it takes time. Most of them are large.
Something that people don't realize. Sometimes you have you can go to a case could take years to come through fruition.
Yeah.
And, I had to go back several times after retirement for cases.
And testify. Sure.
Exactly. Yeah. Because you just don't realize that's still going on.
Yeah.
And it's literally, that guy got locked up 3 years ago. How long now? But it happens.
It's crazy.
Let me ask you now, when you were in, we keep saying KPD, that's the Kingston Police Department for people who what we're talking about. How did it work for you guys now too? When you became a sergeant, you got promoted to sergeant because you ended up being lieutenant, right?
Yeah, I was patrol, but I got promoted to detective sergeant. I never worked as
so
a
was it because I didn't know, that was my curiosity. If there was a title for that, it was detective sergeant. So you remained a detective at sergeant's pay and a sergeant at the same time.
Right. Yeah, it was strange because I was. I'm sorry. What's that?
Still conducted investigations.
Yeah. What happened was I was at patrol for a few years. I did my midnights and stuff, and I think I made it to 4 to 12, and then they were using me for narco back and forth. I got promoted, and I got promoted into narco as a detective. So now I was making cases in narco. So now I was on the other side, running CIs and so on and so forth. And then I worked my way through that for a while. I was in a couple of different units. I got farmed out to state police for I think about 2 years, a year and a half, as in a task force down in Newburgh. And I UC'd like a lunatic down there for those guys. They were great guys. It was a great group. A bunch of seasoned guys had been out there. All of us, it was an interesting unit because all of us UC for the most part. There were probably a few guys that really weren't UCs, but just great case runners. And all of us UC'd, and we had a board, and it was like, hey, I need a salty black guy for this guy because he's going to fit the case. We had one of the guys we called Crackhead because it was a perfect name for him because he played the part so well. Great cop, and he would be the guy, right? Another guy, we need a slick guy for blah, 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 blah. He would be this guy. You needed a short, white Irish kid with a bunch of tattoos. That was me. And I got used a lot. It was funny. The bosses came in and said, why are we using him all the time? You guys got to use somebody else sometimes. What's the matter with you guys? So I felt pretty good about that. But I learned a lot from those guys. They were great guys, experienced, good, just great handlers as far as like, you knew when you went out, I felt safe with those guys. I felt safe with my guys too. I felt safe with most units. You know what I mean? There were times I got sent to places where they didn't have enough resources to back me up properly.
Right.
Like smaller PDs, they would back me up, but they were backing me up. They didn't have enough. And it was not them. They were good cops. They're like two guys out there with me. You know what I mean? It's like, that's not enough.
No, that's scary.
I did a UCD. I was in a crack house not with those guys. I was in Hudson. And they were great guys. We did a swap with those guys. And I had a radio in a car that I had a couple blocks away, and I could stay out. And I would go in and I'd get on the radio. I'd get off the set, go back, and I would call back and say, done deal, blah, 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 blah. You guys got all that. I was in that house for 45 minutes, and I came out. It was a rough house. I got out of there, and I got my work done. I came out. It's a good deal. You guys get all that? And they were like, negative. We didn't know you were out.
Scary.
That one stunk. I was like.
And was that, what do you call it? You guys use Kells too, I imagine, right?
What's that?
Your recording device was a Kell?
Yeah, we had a Kell. Yeah.
Yeah. For people that don't know, Kell is it's a small, we always had problems with them. Always.
I know.
It's small, a little bit smaller than a pack of cigarettes, and, be taped somewhere on you or in your pocket or whatever. Yeah. And then the investigators would have a recorder about the size of a small briefcase. It was a briefcase that you'd open up, and that would record, and we would listen at the same time before we'd rush in for the arrest if there was an arrest to be made at the time.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and then it started to change a little bit, and they started to put it, and you could put it, I'm not going to give up the story in case it gets out in the world, but you already know, and you could put it in anything. You could put it in a mouse if you wanted to put it in a mouse. You could put, you could put it at some point they realized that the wire's not working anymore. It felt like a TV when it was on you.
I imagine.
First time I put that thing on me was hot. First of all, it had the wire, and I was like, this thing's like walking around with a TV on my chest, but it felt like it to me. Meanwhile, you didn't see it. But yeah, that was a little creepy, and it was not their fault. They just couldn't. They didn't. The connectivity wasn't there, and
manpower is always an issue.
Yeah.
And that, and again, I never knock anybody wherever you're working. This nonsense where some departments think they're better than others.
Right.
A serious situation is a serious situation, man, and you really, really want to have that team behind you. So believe me, I understand that 1,000%.
Yeah, it's your lifeline, because if you yell avalanche or whatever your code word is, you're hoping somebody's coming. You got some good meat-eating guys coming your way to, save you. And when you find out that they didn't even know you were out yet, you know what I mean? That's a little creepy, And again, not their fault. It was just the system they had.
Here's the thing, and I'll ask you this. We must have talked about it sometime in the past. But now, getting back to, talking about experience, talking about, how things work. Now, with all this anti-police nonsense that's been going on the last 10 years or so, all right? Less and less people are taking the test. Less and less people are joining. Listen up. This one's important. As a rule, I never stump for charities, because most of them don't hand out as much money as they collect. And that's a sad fact. But not Tunnel to Towers. These guys do the right thing. They have an A+ rating from Charity Watch and a 4-star rating from Charity Navigator. That's like the #1 charity watchdog group, with over 93% going towards the families of veterans and first responders who have lost their lives in the line of duty. For only $11 a month, and it's easy. Just go to t2t.org. That's letter T, number 2, letter T.org, and hit the donate button. Do the right thing and do good for the families and the veterans and the first responders who do good by you. It's only $11 a month. Thanks, and all the best. And so many people are, if not leaving on time, after 20 years, they're even leaving earlier because they just can't take it anymore.
Yeah.
And, what a drain that is. Did this ever affect you, or you were more after the fact? But the drain that it is on experience, on having good police officers, experienced police officers that really know the job, really know their cities, towns, environments, whatever, and getting the job done, it's less and less all the time. It's really, to me, it's just, I don't know what words I want to, it's a terribly scary situation. It really, I don't see it getting any better, to tell you the truth. You want to tell me, give me your view on that?
Well, my view too is, if you look at what's going on now at the DA's office too, I get to learn the other side. Like, I always have my conferences with my cases, my felonies and whatever. And you go and you talk to the lawyers, and we had good relationships. And you learn some stuff, but we're still police work. Once I get to someone, it's like, okay, that's you guys, you do your thing. I got to go back and catch more people. Your job is to, I'll catch them, you clean them. That's kind of what we were working on. But you learn more and more about the other side. Like, hey, okay, they need this in this amount of time, or I got to get this, I have to do this and this for this case to be prosecuted. If I don't have these two things, it's not going to work, blah, blah, blah. Now, working on that side, I see, now, especially because of what's going on with discovery and everything like that, people are losing cases because they didn't turn over a piece of paper. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous what's going on. It's absurd, but kind of got me a job to some degree, so I get it, and it's important, and it is important to get all that stuff in and keep it moving. But there's a lot less humanity in it. It's like, it's just digital. You need this, and if you don't have this, you don't have this. So, going back, you learn how to work with the lawyers on that part. Sometimes they're like, well, we need this and this. I said, that's ridiculous. We're never going to be able to do that for you. Well, we need a video of him stabbing, but it's not going to happen. You know what I mean? But we will give you all the evidence we can to get you close to that point.
Mhm.
So that was always the grind. Now I get to see it on both sides of it, which is kind of, it's interesting. It's interesting for me.
It's interesting, and although you can understand from, well, one thing like I always like to say, you probably heard me say this before, you know, I don't even know why they call us law enforcement half the time, because you and I don't get to enforce shit. You know,
Right.
we scoop up the bad guys, we hand them off to the court system, you
Right.
know, and it's the district attorney's office and the judges in the court system who decide, you know, what's going to happen.
Exactly.
But when it gets so uptight like this, you know, they're not hurting us. They're not hurting the police department
No.
by not prosecuting these cases as much as it aggravates us and hurts us. And why are we working so hard for this? You're hurting the victims, man. You're
Yeah.
hurting the public who are
Yeah.
not served properly. You know,
Exactly.
with your
Exactly.
with again, if not so much even silly technicalities, okay,
Right.
which 9 times out of 10 are pretty silly, or political will because the DA's office doesn't want to look a particular way, you know, be it racist, sexist,
Right. Right.
bearing,
Right.
whatever,
Right.
okay. But all in all, too, it's the thing where they, you know, desperately want to win. All
Right.
right. If you know where I'm going with that,
Yeah.
if there's no win, if they don't see a touchdown, they're not going to make the play. You know,
Exactly. Exactly. It's just true. And yeah, that makes it hard. We do our best to do that. And we're like, hey, this is as good as it gets. And they're like, well, why can't you do more? So that was the thing. So, but now I kind of see both sides. I get it on their side too. They're like, I'm
yes,
not going to win this. And I got 6 more stacked. So
yep,
let's
yep,
take the wins and we'll plea these out, you know, or whatever. I get it. And they make it harder and harder. That's the whole, like, and the other part I'll say is drug cases now, people are not just doing the time. It's not that, it just seems to me that you have to be a 2 or 3 time FO and catch another A1 before you're going to be going to jail or prison. I mean, you know what I mean? So it used to be like, hey, we know this guy's a violent guy. He's a serial burglar. He's a home invasion guy. He's all those things, but he's also a drug addict. So back in the day, you get him on a couple of good drug sales, possessions, or whatever. You put him in prison for a couple of years and he's not killing people, breaking
right.
into people's houses. Because that's not just another drug dealer's house, which
Mhm.
that technically makes him a victim. It's innocent people. They're doing burgs to support the habit, and they're doing burgs or they're selling drugs to support their habit. So all those things, if we can get in with the drug angle, it's a lot easier than sitting on the guy, following him around, trying to put a tracker on him and wait till he does a burglary and hurt somebody and say, aha, we got you. So
Correct, correct.
that tool isn't the same anymore. It's,
Mhm.
I mean, unless you catch him with a lot of weight, these guys are back out before I get the paperwork. You know, it's insane.
I remember locking a guy up one time. He had 89 priors. 89 priors. You know,
Yeah.
what is going on here, man?
Yeah. That's what's happening now.
No, I believe it. It can't be any better. There's
No,
no, it's any better. You know.
no, no, it's going the other way. And sooner or later, as they say, the sled's going to hit the pavement, you know, and we're going to have to realize we got to change this around a little bit. Well, you know, somebody's dangerous. I mean, violent crimes, people are getting let back out and committing another one within 2 months, and there's no repercussion. I don't understand.
I'm sure you saw that. I mean, there's so many dozens and hundreds of stories we could tell ever since this whole bail reform thing went through. I don't know, what's
Yes.
it, like 5 years now, something like.
Yes.
But there was the one guy who I always talk about who was a bank robber. Guys are robbing banks in New York City. All right. And they keep letting him back out. You know,
Yeah.
he's like 7, 8 different places and he laughs. He says, I'll see you next week. Because
Yeah.
he's coming right back out to do it again.
Yeah.
You know?
It's unbelievable. And think of the danger for the public and the
Yeah.
danger for the cops that got to try to stop this next
Sure.
bank robbery where there may be a shootout involved, right? Where
Yeah.
innocents are going to get hurt or
Yeah.
cops are going to get hurt, you know, or bad guys. It's not going to end well. It's ridiculous. So, and again, the drugs were always a good way to stop a lot of that. You know what I mean?
Back to the foundation.
Exactly.
It
You have a
literally-
serial rapist, but he's also a drug addict. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
you know? So that might be the way to put him in prison for a while and stop that. You know what I mean?
And at the very least know who he is.
Right. And at least have him ID'd, exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that was my take on it, and it's still my take. You know what I mean? But it's harder and harder to keep people in on the drug cases. You know what I mean? It seems like it's pretty tough. I mean, you got to really, it's repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, and then finally it'll stick.
Yeah. Yeah. So for our listeners here, give us a juicy case. You got a juicy narcotics case you could tell us?
Yeah, I had a good one. I got a good Newburgh case. It was a fun case.
For people that
fun.
I don't want to cut you off, but for people that don't know, again, the Hudson Valley's got numerous small cities that run up and down either side of the Hudson River. The first time I was in Newburgh, I was shocked because being a city guy, I'm going upstate, right? And I went, very good friend of mine, Pat, because we were thinking about investing in some property, some housing, and he says, this stuff in Newburgh is dirt cheap. We have to go take a look at it. Dirt cheap for a reason.
You know,
we were going down Main Street. We had breakfast at a diner. We get to where we're going, and man, it was like crack alley. I thought I was back in the Bronx.
It's bad. It's bad.
It was tough. It was a tough place. Needless to say, we didn't buy anything on that trip.
Good move. Because it really hasn't sprung out like some.
What? So
yeah, some of those cities are like you can buy it because it's cheap and it's gentrifying or whatever. Newburgh never really took on like that. It still seems the same to me. And I spent a lot of time in Newburgh.
Anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Tell me the story.
Oh yeah, my good case in there. Again, this was working with the task force guys, and it was great because it was a short ride from the office. I was buying a crew that one of the other guys had a hook up into. I think he gave me a CI. We got in, and we got rid of the CI. I was able to get rid of the CI and move on to the next level with the guy. And we started, the first time I bought the guy, I bought a couple ounces off him. So we were moving not just street stuff. We were moving, but in Newburgh, street buys, believe it or not, were happening in weight. It was just out of control. I thought Kingston was pretty salty. Newburgh was freaking salty, and even, my experience in New York, I wasn't a cop in New York, but I'd been through I had family that lived up in some of the neighborhoods up in the Heights and stuff. I was like, okay, I get it. I get it. It's pretty rough up here. It's definitely bad up here. I felt bad for cops working up there. This was pretty salty, and it's tight. So there's not a lot of room to put people to back you up right on top of it. It's tight. And this was in the time when they were just starting to use bleep phones, where you had the push to talk. A little bit of like,
yes,
the
yeah.
Nextels.
I had our first cell phones that my wife and I had with the Nextels with the little
Nextel. So you had the bleep. We called them bleep phones. So this crew, when I was buying from these guys, I bought them once. I picked a pretty good spot. It was like a Dunkin' Donuts just out of the main mess. So it was easier for our guys to watch. I think I picked the spot because I didn't want to go in there because I knew it was going to be hard for backup to back it up. So we went up there, did a couple like 1 ounce deals or whatever, and we worked our way up a little bit. And we got to, I don't know, a quarter key or something like that. I'll go back. Second time I bought the guy, because they know a lot of times it's 2 buys and a rip. Yeah. They had a whole bunch of people standing out there with their bleeps. I could see him, he had people watching, so nobody could get that close to me. Nobody could be inside that, but you could see the guys, and he was looking at his guys, and he would talk to his guys. It was pretty well organized for street stuff and for a relatively new buy. First buy, no problem. Second buy, I buy him. Foolish and don't pull the product out enough. I grab it. He gets back in his car. He starts to take off. And I look at it, and it's beat. And I can see it's beat, right? So I close it up, and I yell to the guys. I didn't yell. I talked over my cal. I said, stand by, guys. It's a rip. It's a rip. Hold on a minute. Give me a minute. And I think they got nervous because they thought in minutes a rip like they were ripping me. I wasn't thinking. I should have been a little clearer. And I drove up fast as I could, and I stopped him. I cut him off before he got out of the parking lot. I'm like, what the fuck, right? Are you fucking kidding? Luckily, I did it this way. And he was like, well, no. He actually backed. I thought I was going to get myself shot, but I was just mad. I was like, I don't want to get ripped off. I'm better than this. I thought I was anyway. It was an ego thing at this point. And actually it played well because then they trusted me after that. What happened was they sent the beat package because they thought they were going to get knocked on the second buy.
Let me interrupt. I don't want to interrupt you at all because the story is great. But again, for our listeners, remember, we're talking to each other.
Right.
It means it's not real drugs.
Right.
Good
point.
You know?
Yep.
So they sold you beat stuff, fake stuff.
Yep.
In a rip, when we rip somebody, we're arresting them. That's the end of the case. Whether it be a long 6-month case or an immediate buy and bust, the rip is the arrest.
This would be a buy and bust, right?
I know exactly what you're saying. I just want to make sure that the listeners know what you're talking about.
You're right. I gotta back up a little bit. I gotta remember who I'm talking to, you and other people.
Exactly.
But, so I pull up, I break his balls a little bit. I'm like, this is bullshit. Money back, money back. No. Okay. Money back. Get the money back. Goes, I'll be right back. I said, okay. I told everybody, stand by. I got back in the car. I said, stand by. I think we're okay. Hold on a minute. He drives down the block. He comes back with the right package. So worked out good. And I don't think they ever thought a cop would be that stupid to run back up to the car and jump in his shit about it. So I got in good with the guy, and we bought him. We got great buys on him. My last buy, we did a buy and bust. We did get him. I went there. I had a nice car.
How many buys did you make off this guy?
I think I made like 3 or 4. What's that?
What would be normal for you guys now consider it a case? You understand what I'm saying? So it's not just a buy and a bust. You're looking to rip this guy good, right?
Yeah. And we're trying to pull some other people in.
You know, you want to bring more people in. You want to get more product. You know, I assume on occasion you like to add the gun because it pisses it. For us, adding the gun was the icing on the cake because it really made the judges mad.
Absolutely. Makes it a much better case. And this was a tight crew. So we were seeing more and more people involved, and it was up to them to identify people because they're out. They had perimeter watch. You know, they were more organized than your average street crew for sure. They were next level. You know, they're not necessarily, cartel, but they're above the guys that you normally go out and just do some buys with and get appliances from.
Yeah, they're not street guys.
Yeah. They put in some work. They had people that they worked, that they ran, no doubt about it. So a few buys in, whatever, we're getting up to a point. I had a nice Acura because I was a little bit more than just riding around in a piece of shit car, just buying head stuff. So I go back third or fourth buy, and we're going to do like half a key for the car. I was going to sell him the car for half a key or something like that. You know what I mean? We're working in that level, so it's kind of cool. But I was like, I already knew this was going to be the last deal with this guy because the plan was a rip. I was going to tell him, look, man, this is a lot of money. I put the money in the trunk. That was my word to get the hell out of the car because you know the deal. We don't want to be in the car when people start getting out of the car. So I'm going to be out of there. So that being said, we sit there and we're meeting at a Dunkin' Donuts just outside of town every time. And he gets in my car and we're comfortable now. And he's got a cup of coffee with the lid off. And I looked at myself and I went, shit. There goes the interior of this car. Because I know I remember thinking in my head, I know it's going to happen to this guy in about 5 seconds. Yeah. But, damn, he's going to ruin the interior of this car because it's going to be a shit show when they yank him out of here, right? So like, well, not my problem. I get out. I say, hey, Marty's in the trunk. I get out, pop the trunk. I get taken down by one of my guys. Actually, a little bit rougher than I thought he was going to be, but he put me into the trunk. I don't fucking move.
Got to keep it realistic.
They go in.
Realistic.
What's that?
You got to keep it realistic.
I know. It was a little realistic. I was like, you don't have to point that gun right at me. We're good, but all good. And he was a great guy. He was a good backup. I've known him for years. They pull him out of the car, and the interior goes to shit because the coffee goes flying. The 5 guys that were doing the overwatch start to rabbit. They run all 5 different directions, and it was hysterical. This is the funny part of narco, right? And you can appreciate this. So all the backup were chasing all the runners, right? All the overwatch. The senior investigator, the boss on scene, runs his car. He's chasing a guy who runs over a fence, jumps over a fence, crashes through the fence, crashes through another fence. He just on this guy and chases him down. 2 of my guys not my guys, the backup guys were chasing 2 guys on foot, and they got vests on and stuff, so they're running, they're getting tired. The guy I told you was crackhead, commandeers a bike, and he's a backup that day, and he gets a bicycle, and he starts riding up the hill, catching the guy, and he tells the other guy running, hey, grab the other bike real quick, and they chased him down on bicycles and caught him. So it was kind of a cool thing, but it turned into like a foot pursuit, and everybody, all the local cops are involved now. It's a shit show. I get thrown in the back of a Newburgh car, handcuffed, right? Because we're still not exposing me. So I'm still a collar. I'm in the back of this car, and I don't even know the kid's name. Brand new cop in the front of the car. It's like 100 degrees out. It's August or whatever the hell it was. And I'm like, hey, man, crack the window a little bit. You know what I mean? Man, just sit tight. Don't do that. I was just being a jackass, right? Just being a jackass all the way down there. I'll leave it at that, right? So
did the cop also didn't know that you were...
No, Newburgh did not know about
right.
they just, so I was just another scumbag in the car, right? So I'm in the car, I'm cuffed up, he's driving down there, he takes me to headquarters, gets me in the Sally Port. You know, by now everybody's down at Newburgh PD, gets me in the Sally Port and walk me through they walk me into the tank. And my guys are there and they go, yeah, unhook the detective. And the guy's face went white. It was like shit. And I got done. I said, hey, no hard feelings, but you never know who's in your car. Be careful.
That's right.
He took a payment. I said, we're good, man. We're good, you know, but so it was just it was a wild case. But that was a good kind of wild case to be involved in for sure. Stuff like that. There were good cases. And like I said, great people to have at your back. You know what I mean? They were good guys, no doubt about it. So for me, that's the undercover stuff. It was a lot of that. It was just, like I said, from city to city to town. I did Middletown as well, New Windsor, all through Orange County.
Well, again,
County.
Back to me, you know, again, not looking down and talking shit about upstate, but realizing how much drugs there are upstate. I mean, we know drugs are everywhere, you know?
Oh, yeah.
But coming from the Bronx, you think, you know, this is drugs headquarters. Every cop thinks that, of course, you know?
Yes.
But explain a little bit, again, to our listeners, just how rough some of these little towns are. They're large towns, small cities, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Is that a way to describe them?
Yep.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, again, Middletown, Newburgh, Poughkeepsie, Peekskill, Beacon. These are some rough areas.
Yeah, you're right. And actually, I worked in all of those, and it never felt any better than, you know, I spent a lot of time in the city as well. It never felt any better. Like, hey, this is so much safer than walking in Washington Heights or walking in the South Bronx. All bad places to be if you're doing something wrong. The chances of getting hurt are phenomenal. But I realize it's just as bad. It doesn't matter where you are, but you know what I mean? You're in that section right there. It might as well be the South Bronx. You know what I mean? The backup might be tougher because you guys can't get in as tight, but.
And a lot of times too, what people fail, you know, I say these things, sometimes I repeat myself so much, I don't want to be boring. I truly believe that 90% of the world's population are decent people, you know?
Me too.
But it is, you know, when things like housing projects where we stack poor people on top of each other,
right,
you end up with a higher density of problems, poor areas, poor neighborhoods. And there are, you know, going back to places like Kingston or Poughkeepsie or, you know, which is a much smaller population than New York or Philadelphia or something like that. But some of those buildings and some of those homes that you walk into are unbelievably bad.
Yes.
Unbelievably dangerous. Yes. Because it's so concentrated.
And it's a fort. It's fortified. I
mean,
absolutely. Yes. And they know their area.
Mm-hmm.
So they know which doors to lock, which doors not to lock. They could set traps. I get it. I totally, as one of the guys I work with, court officer that works with us right now, and he worked in New York in housing, and he did vertical patrol for a bunch of years. And I just looked at him and said, God bless you. That's just every corner is a bad corner. Every stairwell is a bad stairwell. Those guys got it rough. I believe. You know,
I agree. I agree. Yeah.
And I'm sure you did your time with it.
We did on patrol. We did the same thing, vertical patrols. You had buildings and it's funny, you know, you could walk into one building on a block and it's immaculate.
Yeah.
Smells like bleach, you know, the place is clean, the people are nice, the soup is nice. They're like, oh, so nice to see you. Thanks for showing up, officer. You know?
Yeah.
And literally right across the street or right down the block, you walk in and it smells of urine. There's literally feces, literally people shitting in the vestibule, in the hallways, in the elevator, you know?
Yeah.
You know, you're walking up and down the stairs, and forget about the graffiti, which is everywhere. I mean, there are doors that have no knobs on them.
Yeah.
You know,
You're
they
practically in a horrible spot.
you 2x4s and shit like this. It's
Yeah.
just nuts. And then, you know, the true drug dens where they do things like, you know, especially if it's a private home, you know, they cut holes in the floor and cover it with linoleum.
Yeah.
So if you
Yeah.
walk in, you're going to fall through.
Yeah. Or they send dogs down.
No,
Yeah.
they send dogs. Well, they have the dogs too. I don't know if you've ever come across it, but they do. They remove the vocal cords. So, and what kind of veterinarian would do that, by the way? But they do. So now you get this big, scary pit bull who can't
But you can't hear 'em. Yep. No, I remember hearing about that. Yep.
Scary, scary stuff, man. It's scary
Yeah.
stuff. So,
It's very,
and
very
it's
scary.
everywhere. Again, Newburgh, Kingston, Poughkeepsie, it's no different than the Bronx.
Right.
And
it's not.
the end,
It's not. It's a little bit easy. Like I would say,
scale.
you could get, like if you were from the undercover perspective or from the radio run perspective, you could get to somebody to help them much quicker up here because it's just not so vertical. It's not so voluminous. It's, you know, in my opinion, I think that would be.
Well, that's what I mean. It's just a smaller scale. It's the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And again, you know, a city like Kingston has, you know, got just under 100 police officers.
Right.
You know, and that's including everybody, cops, detectives.
Well under now. Yeah. Exactly.
You know? And where a precinct in the Bronx may have just one precinct, may have 150 to 200 guys.
Absolutely.
And
you have
precincts.
Ungodly amount of problems. You need at least 150.
Yeah. And even then, there's never enough.
There's never enough. No, it's always, and that's city policing, I think, in general, right? City policing is less with more, less with more, less with more. It's always that way.
Always the case.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's mind-boggling. A quick thing, it works with that. When I was in Newburgh, I was quick story. I'm buying a guy, and it was street stuff down on like Bankert or whatever. I think it was that street. It was just a bad neighborhood, but I was buying lower level, multiple buys, just multiple people. So I got hooked into a couple of different guys, and I started buying them up a little bit. And I wanted to buy, I don't know, over 100 grams, and my scale was only good for 100, right? So I was like, hey, because I was using the same little scale. I didn't want to look like, you know. So, and again, street buys. So I said to the guy, hey, man, come correct and come with 2 bags because my scale's only good for 100. So bust it in 2, right, for my next deal. I was working with him on the phone at that point, I think. And he's like, okay. So I meet him on the corner. It's broad daylight. We're on the back of a parked car. I put the scale down and I'm weighing the bags, right? Broad daylight. The hood is the hood. It's like there's people walking around. He's connected enough to know that I'm not going to get robbed because they're not going to mess with him. They're not going to mess with me. A patrol car comes down the street. And I'm like, well, they don't know that I'm there either. They didn't notify Newburgh we were in the area, which I didn't always think that was the right way to go, but whatever.
Well, I got to say, I'm 50-50 on that.
Me too.
Safety-wise, yes, it's good to have everybody know that you're there.
Yeah.
However, case-wise, it is not. Because we would do the same thing. If we told people we were coming, God forbid there was any corruption within the police department, and even not so, just stupid people who can't shut their mouths.
Say stupid. God, the narco guys are working there. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And it gets out. And then the next thing you know, number one, your undercovers are at risk, you know? But number two, you're not going to get anybody.
Exactly.
You're going to shut up. They're going to close down shop for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 hours.
Exactly.
It's a waste for everybody. So we were always better going in cold, you know?
Me too. Me too. If people were doing that in our jurisdiction when I was working, I would be insulted to a certain degree, but I also would understand. You know what I mean? As a boss there, and again, small city, blue on blue, you're worried about that. You know what I mean? Because we've had guys running around in plain clothes that we didn't know with guns out. You know what I mean? And looking pretty shady. So, and I've also been that guy where something went south.
Say myself that I actually had a guy who became my friend later on when I was a younger cop on patrol, who he was a SNU guy. All I saw was a guy in an army jacket with a gun.
Right.
Grabbed him, you know?
Yeah.
And oh shit, I'm so sorry, but it was after the fact. I already had a gun to his head,
Right. Right.
And same thing happened to me. I'm coming out of an alley, and the police had been called on us.
Right.
As I'm coming out, and I have a gun in my hand because we were just chasing bad guys.
Right.
I got a gun, boom, right here in my face.
Right.
And whoa, it's a bad place to be.
Yeah. Well, we gotta. Yeah. And yeah, as the plane clothes, you gotta kind of fold down. You gotta be like, okay. You can't be like trying to reach for a shield. You're gonna wind up getting shot. You know what I mean?
So, hands up. Yes, sir. No, sir.
Yeah.
I'm on the job.
It's very sketchy.
I'm on the job. I'm on the job. And again, I wasn't even an undercover, but again, just being plainclothes. Working anti-crime.
It's close enough. Yeah.
Narcotics. You're running around, and I'm a very cop-looking guy, especially, but people are afraid.
You are, you're not. And the guy, you're not in uniform. He's got to make that decision. That's a scary.
We grabbed
agree with you.
I grabbed a guy one time. Funny, he wasn't a New York City cop. I think he was from White Plains, if I remember correctly. And it was early in the morning, and he was at the bagel shop buying bagels, to take home to his Bronx girlfriend or whoever he had met up with. And, I didn't like the looks of him. And I'm looking him up and down, and sure enough, I saw the bulge. He was carrying something. As soon as he stepped out, I just jumped him from behind. I didn't jump him. Let me back that up a little bit. I put my hand on it from behind. I said, I'm on the job. There's a gun. Don't move. Put your hands on top of your head. He did. He put his hands on top of his head. I'm sorry. I'm on the job. I work over here. You don't know.
Right.
No.
Right.
Something that people don't think about,
No,
but
they don't. They don't think about it.
Yeah.
Oh, let me finish the little story with the whole Newark thing. This is how I felt so bad for these guys. So I worked in Newark a lot, and I was doing a lot of street work in Newark. And I noticed that, and it was mostly in the bad neighborhood, and I noticed that patrol cars would come through all the time. So this one case there, I got 2 bags of Coke out, a couple of ounces of Coke, and a few ounces of Coke, and a scale, and me and this guy are doing an obvious drug deal. Everybody, it's not hidden by any stretch, but it's a busy city, and like, hey, this is what we're doing. I'm like, all right, here we go. Patrol car comes, and I tell my guy, I'm like, yo, man, watch out, cops. He's like, yeah, don't worry about that. And I'm like, what? And what happens is, it's not because the cops suck. They were good cops. But Newburgh cops, what I noticed, every time I saw them, they were moving to another job. They were just going from job to job to job. They had no time for doing interdiction or just, do a little like, just, hey, I'm going to sit up on the block and see if I see something, shake somebody and see if I get something. They had no time to do proactive police work. And I felt bad for them. What they were more nervous about is the guy sitting up 3 blocks in a little Acura or, that nobody knew or a little piece of shit Fiat, guy made them nervous.
I understand exactly. And for our listeners, when you think that the police aren't doing anything because you see them in uniform, understand, I found, especially when I was in SNU, sitting on top of rooftops, watching guys, drug dealers were not afraid of uniform cops at all because knew the uniform guys were not coming to get them.
Right.
It was a fluke. It would be a big, very unusual for a uniform guy. It was kind of frowned upon anyway for a uniform guy to scoop up drug dealers.
Right.
Okay. They were afraid of plainclothes guys.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
They were afraid of the plainclothes guys because they knew that's who was looking for them.
Right. Right.
And they had no fear. I mean, I've watched guys do hand-to-hands literally 10 feet away from a uniform cop.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Right back. And sometimes smile about, I'd be watching them from up the block, binoculars, smiling and laughing that they're pitching right behind the back, being as daring as they could,
It's fucked up for them. I feel bad for them because it's not their position. They got to be ready to do the other half of the job, which...
Well, they're chained to the radio. They're going radio call after radio call after radio call, and like you say, they can't do proactive policing. They can't,
And I'm sure you would know better than I because you worked in the precincts, but I'm sure, and even in our job, I was proactive when I was a patrol guy. I still had narco in my blood, so I still had CIs. So I would still, hey, I got so-and-so's carrying. Okay, cool. And, go around the block and snatch them up, maybe grab another car. Now I tied up 2 cars, me and my big mouth, not really talking to the boss or whatever. And now 2 cars are brought down. We got to bring them down, or there's 2 guys, a foot pursuit. And now we just tied up half the squad.
Well, again, back to things that the public doesn't understand about policing. Patrol, and I'm going to talk to you like I'm talking to somebody that doesn't know anything, again, for our listeners, patrol are the guys that are answering the radio. They are trained to the radio, okay? So if a precinct, let's say a fairly busy precinct in the Bronx, okay, it may only be turning out 5 cars, 6 cars that night, and each car is going to pick up, anywhere from, the high teens to almost 30 jobs a night. Try to fit that into 8 hours, right? You're hopping, you're running, man. I'm talking about a busy night. Job.
Move. Yeah.
If you grab somebody for 2 decks of heroin on the corner and you go out of service,
yes,
those 4 other cars have to pick up your 20 jobs.
Exactly.
So it gums up the whole thing. And it's not that it's not illegal. It's not that you shouldn't or couldn't arrest them, okay? But that arrest defeats the purpose of patrol and being able to respond to the serious gun runs,
to the next,
the rapes, violence, the missing child, et cetera, because now you don't have the guys in the cars.
Exactly. No, I get it. And that's kind of what I was saying. We had that on the same smaller scale. You know what I mean? It's
you have
cars, but
team. Yeah. You have detectives that go and investigate everything after the fact. Right. It's just very reactionary, sadly, but you can't pull a car out of service for some nonsense, $20 of heroin.
Possession 7s. Yeah, exactly.
Can't do it, and people
if you're inside doing that, yeah. And you can't back up somebody. And that's the other thing, too, is it's not safe for the squad that's out there. Because now you're that many less for response. Yeah,
exactly. So I get it. And people don't get that. And it inevitably, that's the time that stuff does,
right.
It's the fan.
Yeah.
And now you're down. Now you're down 2 or 4 people because they're in with collars.
Yeah. And Murphy's Law kicks in every time. Never fails. You have the quietest shift all night. You grab one guy and all hell breaks loose on the other side.
Murphy was
Yep. So, funny thing about, you were talking too about being plainclothes, just going back, I was wondering my silly story with it. Chasing somebody plainclothes because that's what had to happen. We're working and something went bad and we're back in the patrol. My guys knew me, so I wasn't worried about blue on blue, but we're chased. They're like, hey, foot pursuit, blah, blah, blah. We were working in the neighborhood, so we jump out to help. So running after the guy pretty quick. So compared to some of the guys on the shift, so I wound up getting up to this guy, catch him, turn. He's fighting with me a bit. I get him squared away. I got him on the ground, flatten him out, and he's still trying to hit me. I'm like, I don't want to have to fucking smash him, but I'm like, hey, settle down. I'm a cop. I'm in plain clothes, right? We're doing a straight plain clothes detail. He looked up at me and went, are you sure?
Yeah.
And I was like, think so. Oh, it's like the funniest reaction I ever had from somebody. It wasn't like he kept fighting or whatever. We both stopped. I'm like, hey, settle down. I'm the police. I'm the cops. And he was like, he thought I was robbing him. And I just said to him, I'm pretty sure I'm the cops. We're good. And he's like, all right. He settled down.
Yeah.
It was like, I got to remember, like, maybe, get a shield out or something here, make this a little easier next time. But you can't figure it out. You're out, you're running, you're chasing. You chase the rabbit. That's what you do. So. That's funny.
Yeah.
Those things they're hysterical.
Well, you know what, my friend? It's been really, really good sitting with you here.
Yeah, you too.
It's been a little over an hour. I think we'll call it an episode.
Yeah, you're right.
Fortunately, with all this stuff you got to talk about, because I know you do, I think you definitely will come back and sit with us again, will you?
I would love to. Anytime.
Yeah, because we got to get some of you. You barely told any stories here. We were talking so much.
Yeah, but we did solve all the world's problems. So that's
what's that?
We did solve all the world's problems, too.
We did. Yes, absolutely. So, all right. Brian, thank you very, very much, my friend. I really appreciate
you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, hopefully we'll have you back soon.
Absolutely. Sounds good.
All the best, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you, my friend.
Bye-bye. Hey, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed that conversation I had with my friend Brian there. Pretty interesting guy. We will definitely have him back in the near future because he had such a long career and so many stories he could share with us. I'm sure you'd like to hear him. More importantly, do the right thing right now. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, so you don't miss our next guest. That's it. That's all I got for you. Thank you very much. All the best.
Hey, how you doing? It's me again, another nobody, Travis Myers. And today we're going to talk whiskey. I know most of you think of me as an all-American patriotic type guy, and you are right. But when it comes to whiskey and drinking whiskey, which I do, I always go for the Irish stuff. And my choice when it comes to the Irish stuff is Powers Irish Whiskey. Established back in 1791, it's a triple distilled, oak-aged whiskey. Powers is simply magic. It also happens to be the #1 selling whiskey in Ireland, which has got to say something, because if it's good enough for the Irish, it's good enough for you. So the next time you raise a glass, fill it with Powers, and think of me, another nobody, Travis Myers.